In this episode, I chat with Mark Masters, the founder of You Are the Media, all about playing the long game. We're talking content, community, consistency and the importance of it, kinship, learning and respect, opportunities, newsletters, events, podcasts, Facebook groups, Twitter, online video, so many elements involved in building a community, an engaged community, and personal brand influence. Alrighty, welcome back to the Reputation Revolution. My name is Trevor Young, and my guest today, he plays the long game, and that's going to be the theme for our interview. His name is Mark Masters. He's got a mini empire happening on the south coast of England, You Are the Media, and a business called We Are the Media. And we're going to dig into that. But Mark's doing all the right things across all the right channels in all the right ways. And I just love bringing on successful people who are not just doing things well, but doing it with heart and passion and enthusiasm and with a respect for their audience. So, Mark, welcome to the show, my friend. You've been on, I think this is a three-peat. I think you've been on 3 times. This is the third one. Last one was a little bit time ago. But so I'm not going to ask you what you were doing 10 years ago. I'm going to ask you what you were doing 1 year ago.
Well, it's good to be back on home soil, on the Reputation Revolution. Right, a year ago, right, October 2020. So when the world went dark for all of us, I'd found a nice little home with You Are the Media, and we were doing shows online. And I was in that state of flux. We were doing monthly shows online. Who was our October guest? I can't remember who was. I remember we just had David, Mim and Scott that was lined up. We was really enjoying this flow. And a year ago today was when it finally clicked, and I was finding the flow with using Zoom, delivering shows, bringing people together, and know that you can have a community and you can have fun online. That's what I was doing a year ago. You Were the Media online, shows online, and I was finding my little groove.
Boom. And I love it that you've, if people are listening on the podcast, they won't see this, but if you're going to watch on YouTube, you'll see you have a nice media wall, a logo wall, which is fantastic.
On brand, Trevor.
You Are the Media. On brand. Now, just for people who may not have understand know what You Are the Media is, it's a lot of things. Just tell us what You Are the Media is, please.
Yeah, thanks. You Are the Media is a marketing and media training and learning community. It started in 2013. It was started from zero, was no one there, and it was using it as a way for me to document what was happening in the big wide world. And where it is now, it's everything that relates to similar to things that you talk about around your side, in terms of creation, in terms of content marketing. We see that new word, content entrepreneurship, that comes up now. Relates to things as well, such as personal branding and thought leadership and how we build these owned media spaces, but also much more than that. Also represents how we can create a narrative and represents independence and honesty and help our own confidence. It's nice to be a part of something as well, which you are as well, my friend. You are a big part of this as well.
Well, we've known each other for quite a few years now, and all this started when you were blogging, but the newsletter kicked it off, and it's been probably the mainstay, and you and I both talk about the importance of mastering one owned media channel before you just start going off into a stack of others, and you're across all of them now, but you did start off with a newsletter which has gone out weekly, with apart from you have your summer break, which has just been recent for you guys, but you've put it out weekly for 9 years.
Yeah, 8 years. 8 years.
8 years.
October 2013 it started.
Yeah. So that's, that is one key takeaway. I'm going to cherry pick key takeaways as we talk. expect me to remember them at the end, so I'll do it as we go through. But yeah, that's one key takeaway: consistency, consistency, consistency. That has gone into, you've had podcast. You've now got the You Are the Media, though, was never a plan. It was an evolution, wasn't it?
Very much so. Yeah, I know. It doesn't represent a part of something or a much bigger entity. It started off as a side project that became much bigger in itself, that now stands on its own feet.
Yep. And you do run an agency as well called We Are the Media. So you basically have two businesses running. What does We Are the Media do?
So We Are the Media, You Are the Media highlights to people what can be done, and We Are the Media shows people and does it for people in terms of all the things I talked about there, in terms of become a trusted voice in our space and how we deliver it and how we use media. And You Are the Media, as I've always said, You Are the Media is my means of being this human cannonball, where I will go out and test things and do things, and I will report back to everyone and say, look, this failed miserably, or I think I've got something here that can work. And I've always believed in I think it was Mark Schaefer that talked about this thing about learning in plain sight of everyone. I'm a big advocate of that, because that, again, that represents originality and creating content that is us, that is close to us and the experiences that we have in our lives, but finds an angle to it that people find that's interesting. I'd like to find out a bit more.
And another key takeaway, again, as we go through,
gems, blimmin' gems here, Trevor. I like the way you stop. Just to let you know, this one, listener, watcher, is point 2. Mark says. Carry on.
Well, it's just something that, so we've talked about consistency and email also being a very key channel. You've had podcasts. You now do video as well. You've done live streaming, I think, yes? Live streaming?
Yeah. Awful.
Dabbled with that. And also you've got a Facebook group, a private Facebook group. But the events are the thing that you started off doing, these informal lunch events that morphed into an annual conference with, international speakers at the Mary Shelley Theatre in Bournemouth. And then you really now are creating lots of learning programs off the back of that. That's really the monetization of it, isn't it? People want more. They're getting excited about it. So there's learning programs that you create online and offline. And recently you've been not dabbling in a bad way, but experimenting, given the world that we've got. I think is genuine hybrid events where you got people in a venue and with a big stage and a big screen, and then you've got people who are tuning in and they're on the screen as well, aren't they?
Oh yeah, so that's the new thing, because now that physical events are back, particularly in the UK, we can take advantage of what we learned from being fully digitally enabled back in 2020.
Yeah.
And so what it means, or what I'm understanding, is that why can't we fuse the best of both worlds? Now, in February 2020, I didn't have a Zoom account. What we have now is a show where people can watch via Zoom. We started You Are the Media online in March 2020 when the pandemic started. You were one of the first guests. And we trialled out where I live on the south coast of England in a theatre. We trialled out in July. Can we bring people into a theatre together as well as people being a part of something on Zoom? It's quite raw. There's lots to learn. And now that's what we're doing. That's the thing. That's as we're going forward, is this delivering these hybrid business events via Zoom, where there are you're basically creating two audiences and you have one show. You have online and online come together, and they are a part of the same show. And I think that is a big skill now, is how we deliver, and you're addressing both audiences, and both audiences can feel a part of something, rather than saying, hey, be a part of you can come to the event, you can be a part of it online and watch online. And all it is a camera on the stage and someone not even looking at the camera. There has to be an etiquette and a way that we address one another, but I am seeing this huge opportunity for these hybrid events where there is still togetherness, and I do believe that even though we can watch via video, we can still create a sense of connection online as well as offline.
So you've used the phrase sense of connection, and that's probably from day one what you've always been about, is building an audience, but not just collecting people like their baseball cards, followers like their baseball cards, but really develop this human connection with them, which is really built into a community. And you know, like most words now in the marketing lexicon, they've been bastardised within an inch of their lives, and you'll hear the phrase community thrown a lot. And yes, we have a community, and marketers are saying, but they haven't really got a community. They might have a few followers, but that does not a community make. What's your take on community, and why is it important today?
Yeah, that's a great question. The reason this is now more important than ever is the world that we have all been thrust in, that was thrust upon us, in terms of loneliness, in terms of isolation, in terms of feeling as though we're doing things on ourselves. We all probably saw it when the pandemic hit and everyone said, yeah, we're going to do a webinar, everyone on how to get the best email headlines. And a company delivered a webinar and it only had about 3 people watching it. Again, so we thought we could build something and it was never there. My big lesson from everything that's gone on in the past year is this ability to build a space before you actually need it. So we go into these channels to build people around it, because when the earthquake, topical.
Yes, we had an earthquake in Melbourne last week.
When the earthquake happens again, you know that you're already covered. So to me, so when I talk about community, so we have audience. Let me just pick up on that very briefly, this thing of the importance of community. It was Joe Pulizzi that talked about this only recently. Web 2 was around how people were enabled to build an audience, and the people that own the audience can monetize from it. Great. Yep. Lovely place to be. Hands up. Yep, do it. New things happen. Web 3 that's happening, everybody, this is new for all of us, is this ability to build the community that everyone can take something from it, whether that is learning, whether that is money, whether that is working together. So to me, that is what community means, is that people feel a part of something.
Yep.
And it doesn't have to be driven via the owner of that said audience or community. It's how it drives itself that people enjoy being a part of something where momentum continues.
Yep.
For instance, my goal is, can you, the media, still be there without me? At the minute, no. But maybe what I'm doing now is introducing more people into the You, the Media centre space, so people take charge. That's what community is all about. It's not about the individual, it's about the people that are a part of it that drives the success forwards.
Yeah, and I guess to a large degree it has been geographic for you, you know, Bournemouth, Poole, the whole County Dorset area. But really now it's extending. You know, there's people close to you who are, you know, Newcastle and not Newcastle, Australia, but well, maybe Newcastle, Australia. You know, Bristol, Southampton, Melbourne.
Look at you dropping all those places in the towns in the UK. Well done.
But it's that's the thing, is that it's sort of creeping out, but in a nice way. It's just you're extending the edges, and so yes, you have got that geographic in person, but people still feel part of it from across the world.
Yeah, so where I'm based is I have the luxury of I live near the sea. So I've always used geographically a base. This base where I live, I always use the word seaside. So when people come down, it feels like a holiday. You know, you've been down here as well. So you create that connotation of beach, of play, and being like a kid again. But at the same time, you don't have to be everywhere. You can have a base, but you can still reach out to people. When I say reaching out, when we have these events and people are still watching on Zoom. And we don't want to forget the people, and that's a big thing that really struck home with me, is that we don't want to forget the people that stood beside us.
Yep.
Because it was awful when things happened. I lost a lot when March, April last year. You cannot forget those people that stood beside you when things went bad. When things went bad, we had things such as quizzes on a Friday. And, you know, I had to have a break. I was shattered July. And people clubbed together and made a little video just to say, look, we'll see you when you're back, Mark. And it's this importance of, and I do value, which is what I mean. Listen, we look at people and we can monetize from people, yeah, and people become part of the sales funnel. You sign up to something, you're going to be bombarded with emails, and to sign up and to pay and everything else. But there's another side to it, is that we create a space that people feel a part of, so when the time is right, they can step forward. That's the reason I do stuff for free. That's why I put stuff out there for free, is that when the time is right for someone, there are events that people pay for. There's the higher ticket items, the learning, and we had a month of learning early this year, as well as the events that we put on. There is a price attached to it. I don't do everything that's there for free, but you want to create, and you want people to feel welcome. So we've had enough, everyone's had enough in the past year of being coerced, of being taken down particular lines for the benefit of somebody else. But if we can create a place now that people enjoy, that they feel attached to, that they know that they can build connection with other people as well, when they feel good that, yeah, I'd like to go to that, it becomes so much more easier in terms of not always having to convince people to keep their attention.
But the naysayers to that will say, but that takes time and effort, Mark.
Yeah, no. Do you know what? And that's the big thing. It does. But if we have, if we are invested and we are curious about the marketplaces that we are a part of, it does take time. But my way around that was, okay, well, I will use the ways I've always made money, and I'll have that ticking over here, as in terms of a marketing consultancy. But at the same time, I'm going to build this thing over here that's going to be quite gradual, rather than thinking I'm going to put all the eggs in this basket over here and I'm panicking that I need to kind of pay the mortgage and everything else. It does take time, but the longer that you are invested in it, the easier it becomes.
And creating anything of value takes time.
Massive.
It has to. So tell me this, you've got the marketing agency or the consultancy that you run. How has You Are the Media, the side project that takes up probably more time, how has that helped your business? Let's get down to those sorts of tin tacks.
Yeah. The way that it helps the commercial side is that I don't deviate too much by saying, everyone, this is how you can do it. And I realised that when there are businesses, larger businesses, where they are a part of the community, and they know that they may have a little bit of a need in terms of content strategy, in terms of content creation, there is a place for them to come to. And I signpost that, for instance, on the You Are the Media website. I signpost that at the bottom. That basically says that this is brought to you by We Are the Media. On the weekly email, this is brought to you by We Are the Media. So a nice idea for people is that, well, if we create these side projects, we can still use it to signpost to our main businesses.
Yep.
That's the kind of way that becomes almost your free advertising.
Yep.
So for instance, if someone gets the weekly email, I'm not there driving people to buy or to spend money or to go to the commercial business. It's there as a prompt. And if people want to build that conversation, it's there. But by having something in an email that's sent every week, it's sent on a Thursday morning in the UK. So I've always kept it out for 8 years now. So I want people to know that when the time is right for them, or when they are part of a community, the conversation becomes so much more easier because there is familiarity in what You Are the Media is, and then when there is a chance to raise it a level on a commercial basis, it becomes so much more easier because you're not necessarily having to pitch your services because people can see what it's all about. They just want to do it for themselves. All
right, key takeaways there. And one thing I will say is I don't think I've ever seen any pitch for your agency ever.
More, shouldn't I?
It's just a natural thing, and people, I think people aren't stupid. If they want to know you and know a bit more about you, they'll find it out. And clearly, you know what you're doing around content, so and they probably dropped somewhere along the line. They probably follow you on LinkedIn anyway, so they know that you've got an agency anyway. But you're not running it down their throat. like a lot of marketers would do if they had a side event, a side project, a content property. They might be doing it really well, but too often we see that they just jam the commercial side and the calls to action. So you have to call to action. You have to have calls to action. You have to signpost things, as you say. You have to, join dots, absolutely. But it's then with what frequency and how much do you punish people over it? Because again, people really aren't stupid. They can make the correlation if they need to. But the other thing is, and I think this is the critical one, because you're running events or you're creating content and you've got that, you're building affinity and familiarity. And so when they do come to, either buy from you, however that is, whether it's attend an event or get you to do some work through your agency, that and you say it often, you become the only person for them to go to. They're not going to put it out to 10 people. 10 agencies. They already know, like and trust you. You're front of mind and probably being talked about in their circles. So they're all the forerunners to commercial transactions that I see.
It is, and I just want to pick up on that as well. I've just highlighted that recently. It was Kevin Kelly that said, look, don't be the best, be the only.
Be the only,
and
that's it.
Jay Akunzo said, look, don't be the best, be their favourite. And I like that. I know, you know what I mean? I like that. Rather than we're always pushing ourselves and we want to be seen as, the big problem for us all is how we're all heard and how we not just get someone's attention, but how we can keep their attention. So that's been a big driver for me is keeping people's attention, which is why I put the time in trying to figure out how all this stuff works. Because then when we talk about, you don't want to be the best, you want to be the only, because that's how we set ourselves apart. So when people make that choice, is our own little differentiators. So people think, I get it. You're the person that shouts and does all these events and the things that goes with it. And that's, it's the same for our own personal lives as well as our business lives. It becomes a lot easier when we're not swimming around with everyone else shouting to be heard, when we're saying the same stuff as everybody else, when that is the biggest, that's the worst thing for all of us today as we're trying to come out of all this stuff.
Yeah,
is how we all look and sound the same,
and try and find that balance between this is who I am and how I make a living versus just delivering value again and again and again. But it comes back to we'll go back to our first key takeaway, consistency. Because if you're consistent showing up, consistent putting the newsletter out every week for 8 years, but consistency of message and story, albeit it will evolve. What you're talking about today, is very different than what you're talking about, 7 or 8 years ago. But the threads and the themes are evolving, but they've been consistent across the board. How important do you, is that something you focus on, or do you think it's just organic?
It evolves. It's how we all change. And here's another realization from all this, is that when you said to me at the beginning, what were you doing 1 year ago? And I also believe that you are your audience. A lot of people say, you cannot say that you're your audience. You're not. I believe that you are your audience. So related to, say, there and what's organic and ideas that we have and how we move and how we evolve with our thinking. So when you asked me what I was doing a year ago, I would have loved it if someone would have said to me, listen, this is how you put together a hybrid event. This is how you put together an online course. And around that, I hadn't done that a year ago from when you asked me a year ago today. And so I believe that you are your audience because we're learning and how we're constantly experimenting, playing with ideas. But the most important thing is that it all comes from a common theme, or the thing that I take it from you when you talk about putting your flag in the sand and that thing that you want people to gather around. And it has to be that common message that you want to get across, but how that evolves over time is helps us all develop, and how it develops our thinking and the connections that we make, because we don't really want to be standing still. I'd hate to be talking about the things before the pandemic. I'd hate to be talking about the things that didn't affect me personally, because the world, I think the world is slightly different. Not too different, but we have all adjusted. So we have to tap into that, because when we tap into that, we find that commonality with other people as well.
Yep. So I'm thinking of, the audience and, people that are wanting to, put themselves out there a little bit more, create content. Often it's, to support their businesses, but often they have a bigger picture and a bigger purpose out there that they might want to explore as well. I run a group coaching program called School of Influence, and we have someone who's in the PR and communication space, but they're going to go into the healthcare space and write a book. And so, that's not everyone is kind of about business, but they might have a sort of a different purpose or a I don't want to use the word side hustle, but a sideline passion project they want to get out there. But I'm going to throw a couple of words at you, and you just this is a bit like the psychiatrist talking to the patient here. Tell me the first thing that comes to your mind.
I'm just going to take my shoes off.
Oh, okay. You don't have to say it back to one word, but what jumps out at you straight away? Content.
Narrative.
Okay, you're not going to expand, just narrative. All right, let's go.
Okay, if you say it was content to me, content to me means that how we share a narrative and a thread to what we want to say that we can share with other people, and whether it strikes a chord or whether it doesn't, that's what content is to me.
Boom. Social media.
I think my goodness, my one misleading. I do, like, for instance, misleading to me is that many of us talk about how we've built communities and via our Twitter and our Instagram followings. They're not. They're just people that we're never ever going to meet. Community, the ultimate thing of community is seeing the whites of somebody's eyes. Social media is misleading, and Twitter followers and Instagram followers are one of the most misleading metrics there are today. Next.
Right. Facebook.
Here we go. A joy to be a part of. I find it weird. Look what's going on now with Ray-Ban and how we're looking to take over the world now via using Ray-Bans and sunglasses there, and we're blinking our eyes and recording the world around us and giving our data away for everything else for free. Don't know what word I use for that.
I'm glad I raised it. Twitter.
I've been using Twitter. No, you want one word. Twitter. Consciousness. So I'm starting to use a little bit more. These ideas that come into my head, I kind of jot them down and put it out there. It's just a way that thing of a scrapbook thing now. I seem to have more conversations though. Hey, big football fan. I've found my little community there on Facebook.
So Twitter you're using a lot more. I mean, you've got a Facebook group which is pretty active. I mean, it is a good forum for what you're doing though, Facebook, in that regard.
Because it's there. Yes, it's there. I keep on wanting to leave Facebook, and same with many people. It's the groups that keep people there. The groups is just a nice way of just keeping everyone up to speed with what's happening.
Yeah.
But the part of me just wants to know. Can I live a life that isn't reliant on it? And I want to show to people that can we live our lives that aren't reliant on Facebook ads and how we're spending. Yeah. And you know what I mean? You highlighted a few months ago when you mentioned about, organic reach on LinkedIn probably isn't as prominent as it was a year or so. So it's all interesting how it's all changing.
All right, live streaming.
Oh, terrible. For me personally, right, here's my thing with live streaming, right? It's like you're riding the bus and you're getting everyone's tickets. And I was using Restream, and I was doing live streams on LinkedIn. And all you're doing is just you're distracted by the people that post, because you want to have, hey, Trevor Young says, great looking T-shirt, and it's all these things that are happening. Has to have that production element to it, has to have this ability to put on a show. But when we're doing this ourselves and we're using StreamYard and everything else and pop-ups and overlays and videos, I'm awful. I'm just distracted by it all, which is why there is the need to create these production studios. We can do it as small businesses, as independents. It's blimmin' hard work, though.
So you don't like it, or you just get distracted when you're actually doing it?
I'm just not good at it. I'm just not good at it. When you're using a live streaming session, and it's always hard when you're talking. It's just you talking at a camera, and you see a little panel there that says 5 people viewing, 15 people viewing. Oh look, I'm at 23 now. Let's go down to 2.
And I
what
did I say?
It is exactly. When were you? Yeah, we live streaming. We're doing all this, and this is the whole thing. Just because you can live stream doesn't mean that LinkedIn are now going to be, hey, we're going to let everybody see this, or that topic that you wanted to talk about. It doesn't mean that anyone's want to click and watch it. It can work, but we have to also make sure we got that audience and that topic that we're talking about. That's something that's going to strike God. Listen, I've seen it work brilliantly with sport and watching games together and live streaming and watch-alongs and things like that. On a business level, I'm a little bit there waiting to be convinced.
But you like video?
Love
for
it.
Uploading,
yeah.
Organic native video.
Yeah, big fan of that. That to me,
Yeah.
listen, even what we're doing is live. Our live thing is, for the live view of the media, online, offline, is almost live streaming, but that's because people come to want to be a part of an organised show.
But you do a weekly newsletter, and then you do a weekly video that explains the newsletter and talks about it. So you're multi-purposing. You're putting that up on the audio too, aren't you? Podcast.
Yeah. So again, it's this multi-purposing thing. So I will read just to make sure that it feels okay or it sounds like me. And what better opportunity than to read into the microphone and to convert that into a podcast.
Yep.
So this thing of repurposing, doing 2-minute little videos that I put at the end of the email. I just like the email becomes a multi-channel experience. So you can listen, you can watch clips, you can read. That's why I'm a big fan of the email newsletter.
Just for people listening in, that you often have one big theme per newsletter. Now the newsletter has got multiple things, and now you've got allow someone to take it over at the front end of it, the intro area, and have other elements of the newsletter. But really, it is one big theme or one big topic per thing. So that means just clarifying that. So you read it and put it on as a podcast, and you then do a video and riff on the issue, or on the topic. So that's really interesting repurposing. So you're making the newsletter itself a living, breathing thing. One last one then, community.
So to me, that is all about kinship. My big word there is kinship, of this thing of bringing people together, common values, shared beliefs, standing for something, standing with each other, and knowing that the world doesn't have to be as isolating, as painful, and and sometimes as tough as it is when you've got other people around you. And I'm not trying to be too happy-clappy with that. I'm talking from my own experience. And you know what I mean? You were there delivering as part of the month of learning. When you have people together and you can experience and learn together and do things together, it's such an empowering thing. I love it, which is why this is the big thing that we're seeing in front of us now, and the ability to be around other people, to find connection and to have a community around it.
I think we're going to see a lot more of it, and a lot more quality over quantity. And you use the word kinship, which is one of my favourite words too. It just sort of says everything, doesn't it? Mark, been an absolute pleasure, my friend, hearing the story and what you've been up to, and dropping in some key takeaways as we go through. I
love the way you do this. I like this when you're doing it, and then it's like, well, let's just pause a minute. He just talked about this. I like that. Rather than read this show. You're not laying there. Read this show notes. I'm going to tell you it as we're doing it. On the seat of our pants.
What are key takeaways? Plenty of great stuff there. And where can people find you? Where can they sign up to the newsletter? More important.
Oh, you're great. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me this platform, Trevor. I really do appreciate it. I do enjoy coming on the Reputation Revolution. See, I'm plugging you now. I'm bigging you up. youarthemedia.co.uk. So come to youarthemedia.co.uk, and in the bottom of the page there, leave your email, and then I'm going to send you, if you do, I'm going to send you a personal video from me to you. So if you're listening, you do that, and I'm going to send you a little video giving you my love from me to you.
Take him up on that. All righty. Thanks very much, Mark. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Trevor.